The MCX has had a lot of changes in 1.0, making it really quite good now, and I've been meaning to talk about it for a while, so it was very fortunate that we picked up this horrible MCX in Raid to help us repair this monstrosity and discover how amazing this weapon can be currently. So here is the weapon that I picked up from the guy in Raid, and it's a bit of a monstrosity to be honest. Look at the durability for a start, and this is the build that I've been using. But let's just begin at the start and look at where you actually get the MCX from in the first place. So from the traders, obviously you can get it on the flea market, so they exist here. They're actually quite expensive to be honest with you, unless you're buying some lowers. But you can get them from the traders in a few different ways. You can buy the lower directly from Skier himself for 24k. There's a barter for a GPX and a 1G phone and 2G phones here over on Skier as well. And then you've also got a regular version on Skier that's built in the default variety. As you can see, this looks very similar to the one that we just saw on the other guy. Then there's this new one on Mechanic. This is one of the ones that they brought in for the event, because one of the player used guns supposedly that they had for 2024, which is kind of neat. It's pretty good, but again, it's still very similar to the old standard MCX build with some nice modifications. And then you've got this one on Ref as well, which again is very similar, but it has a 40 rounder and a tall aim point on it. Now, as you'll see in a moment, there's actually a lot of stuff that's changed about the MCX, and this one that we got off this guy here is pretty much that vanilla style. So we're going to start with the parts that are most impactful, which is probably the stock, because the stock has got a new entrant, which is only really allowed on the MCX and also I think maybe the Spear as well. Now, previously, beforehand, the best stock that you could get was adding this SIG folding knuckle stock adapter, and then you'd put on the ARE, and then on top of that you would put the MOE SG. And you'll see there's a common theme running through this video in that the MCX always used to be a bit starved of good recoil attachments, and that was one of the reasons that led you to, rather than using the Daniels Defense, always going for something like this, the MOE carbine version. So if you did have a choice between ergo and recoil, you'd normally take the recoil at the expense of the ergo, just because the MCX used to not really get that low. This is different now because there's a few new parts. So just keep these numbers in mind. We've got 43 ergonomics and 66 vertical recoil. If we change this over to this new part, which goes directly onto the MCX itself, there's two versions, one in tan and one in black, and it's this thing here. It's called the Magpul UCS buttstock in black. Now, if I hover over, you can see the difference. It's actually identical in recoil to using the ARE plus the MOE plus the butt pad, which is already quite remarkable, and it gives us 2 ergonomics on top of that. But what makes it even better is that this thing has a slot of its own, and you can put this on, which is the cheek riser on the Magpul UCS. It only weighs 40 grams, so it's really, really light, and you get another 4 ergonomics. This is amazing. This is probably one of the best stocks in the game outside of the AK stocks, and on the MCX, it's now a no-brainer. It is at mechanic level 4, so it is quite high, but once you get there, you're definitely going to be wanting to use this. If you want to help reduce cheaters in Escape from Tarkov, you're going to want to listen to what I have to say. Of course, I'm talking about PlaySafeID, and a quick disclosure, PlaySafeID have supported this video financially. However, they haven't told me what to say whatsoever, and as people who watch my channel all the time will know, I talk about these guys everywhere on my stream, on the podcast, and other places, because I genuinely believe that this system is the only way that we are really going to get a significant reduction in cheating across gaming and in Tarkov in particular, where the problem is excruciating because of the way the game loop works and the amount that it hurts to lose your stuff when you die. As a recap, PlaySafeID is a system that games can use to prevent cheaters from repeat cheating over and over again in their games. Now, I have two things that I want to say about PlaySafeID in particular today. The first one is that if you want to see this system in Tarkov, my fellow creator Sir Hans Vader has actually put up a post recently on Tarkov Community calling for BSG to consider adding it, which I think is the most likely way that it will be given some attention by the devs. If you want to see PlaySafeID integrated into Tarkov, please do go visit that link, give it an upvote, and comment if you feel like it as well. The second big update is that PlaySafeID have gotten over their first kind of realistic hurdle and integrating into a reasonably sized game, which is Scum. Scum is in the Tarkov adjacent niche of hardcore survival, and they have 20,000 players regularly, so the game is not a small one. They started off with a handful of servers, and now they are scaling up to 20, partly because of player demand and also because of the success of the rollout. I'm not going to read this out, but you can see the comments from Sven, their general manager here, as they are super pleased with its performance so far. This part though is the crux of PlaySafeID. It stops cheaters from literally being able to try again and again and again against the anti-cheat until they eventually win, as being caught comes with significant penalties all the way up to and including a lifetime ban from any game that is integrated with PlaySafeID, and this is the most important part of the whole system. With an integration under their belt, they have proven that it is real now, it is working, and it could come to Tarkov. It is actually now a reality. I would really love to go through all the nitty-gritty of exactly how it can be so effective and how they've thought of all the various edge cases like I do on my stream, and unfortunately we don't have time here, so I suggest that if you're skeptical, go and read the FAQ, or alternatively, go and ask your favorite LLM for some information about it and maybe some of the downsides, because based on my testing a few minutes ago, they do actually have a pretty unbiased viewpoint of the pros and cons about the system. This ranges from understanding why using an AI face won't actually get through the system, through to how the entire thing has been designed with the minimal amount of information possible, yet still allows it to work. Because as the PlaySafe guys know, and Andrew Wales in particular, who when you talk to him, he's a bit like us. He's just a gamer who's built this system. He knows that gamers are skeptical and they don't want to hand out their information, and so it's been built with that in mind. So if you support the journey, head over to Tarkov.community in the link down in the description. Go and give it an upvote. Hopefully the devs see it, and maybe we'll be able to actually finally start to see a reduction in cheaters from this day forward. Now the next part is about barrels. So previously we only had the medium length, which is this one, the regular one, and a shorter version. The issues with these, if we just go to the short version to start with, you can see your selection of muzzle brakes and attachments is really, really slim. We've got the DT Hybrid and the one mount for the Gemtech. These are both some of the worst suppressors in the game from a recoil perspective, and as we said before, that's kind of what we're looking for. The SRD Ti is also not very good because usually the best versions have got a muzzle brake component and a suppressor on the front. And so we're left with this T-lock combination, which is the old 3-part that we used to do. So you do a T-lock, and then on top of that, you do the QD version of the SRD. This is slightly different to the TI one. And then you'd also have this thing, the 2-port brake on top. Now, this is the same for the 9-inch barrel as well. When you go into that, you can see you've got basically the same combination. We don't have the Gemtech or the Hybrid 46 anymore, but we do have the QDC FSK. This is slightly better because it allows you to use the PRS QDC. But this brake here is not meta. This is the flash suppressor kit, and it's not the muzzle brake kit, which is the one that's actually best in the slot. And so although this is okay, it actually ends up not really being worth using either. So all this has changed because we've got this 16-inch barrel. If we go and look at the statistics on these, what we're losing or gaining when we go from 9-inch to 16-inch here is we're losing 4 ergonomics to go from this to this, -6 to -10, and we're gaining 3 recoil, which for the MCX is actually a really good trade. I'd certainly lose 4 ergonomics to lose a further 3% recoil, so basically making the gun more performant. This is definitely good in my opinion. And we put the MCX 16-inch barrel on there, stick the gas plug on, and then you can see we get the full plethora of 7.62 suppressors and muzzle brakes, except the BMD. I do notice, I don't know why the BMD isn't in there. I guess it may not fit or something. But this then allows us to use this, which is the actual muzzle brake kit, which is the proper one, and then the PRS QDC afterwards, and this is a meta combination for 7.62 broadly, which gets the MCX down to 58 vertical recoil, which is already better than we used to be able to do. So after this, what do we want to change? Well, there's a load of new handguards on. I'm actually going to get rid of the X400. I don't really like stuff being on the left-hand side of the gun anyway, and the X400 I think is all right. But we're going to get rid of these. Now, this vertical foregrip choice was very strange. This is the +10 ergonomics vertical foregrip that you're allowed to use for certain handguards. I certainly wouldn't use this on the MCX, in my opinion. And the MCX 8-inch we're going to replace with something new. Now, previously you were only able to upgrade to this thing, the 12-inch handguard, but now we've got a couple of new ones. We've got a 12-inch carbon fiber handguard here. We've got a 10.5-inch one and an 18-inch. You may already notice the 18-inch you can't actually use with the QDC MBK, so we're locked out of using this, but it doesn't really matter because the difference between the 12 and the 18 is only half a recoil point, and you actually get 4 more ergonomics for going with the 12-inch. The 18-inch is pretty much junk. We don't really need to worry about that. And so then it's your choice between ergonomics and recoil on this. This one you get another half point of recoil knocked off, but for the privilege you actually lose ergonomics as well. So you end up with the 12-inch handguard being the best, and it doesn't weigh that much more either, so don't worry about Evo Ergo. That actually is fine using the 12-inch. So then underneath this, because it is one of these M-LOK style handguards, we can actually just add one of these directly. Because of the way that Evo Ergo works, these things are really, really light, and because they're so light, it actually makes up for the extra 1 ergo that you lose if you instead go for something like the SE5, which is +8, but because the SE5 is so much heavier and you need a rail, it actually ends up making up for it and practically makes no difference. This is a lot cheaper too, and I think looks kind of cooler in some ways. From here, we're into more of the niche stuff. I'd change the F1 ST2. This is probably just a trader levels thing. You want to use the Grell because this gives you 3 more ergonomics. And then front and back, you can use the various sights that give you a little bit of extra ergonomics. The Defiance and all of the others like this now only give you 0.5 in 1.0. This used to be 1. This has been downgraded to 0.5. So you can only get 1 extra ergo for adding these both front and back together. It used to be +2 because it was 1 each. And now it's only 1 overall for those, but we may as well take it. And then we're going to add some kind of laser or flashlight. I mean, I usually use the WMX 200, but you can use whatever you like. One thing that I would like to point out about this is that you can use the cantilever mounts, but these have been changed. So these no longer give you 1 ergo, so there's no reason to plaster these all over your weapon anymore. We used to do this on weapons like the M4, on certain specific handguards, because they used to give you all +1, you could add 4 of them and stuff. But BSG have changed this to be -0.1 now, so there's actually no reason to really use them. It's basically just an aesthetic choice at this point, which is probably for the best, because it was a bit silly us having them all over our weapons before. As you can see, this now gets us to 48 ergonomics and 54 vertical recoil, which is really, really good. The only problem with this gun, as we mentioned before, is that the durability is way too low. For those of you who'd forgotten how durability works, there's basically two different systems. One is heat, so if you fire too many rounds too quickly, the whole gun will heat up and it can jam off that on its own. That's irrespective of the durability. Then you have the jamming situation, which occurs because the durability is too low. That system kicks in at 93. The MCX is a weapon that is prone to reducing durability quite quickly partly because of its suppressor and also the ammo that's inside it. So you do have to keep an eye out for the durability, but fortunately, as we already pointed out, it is one of the few weapons where you can buy a lower receiver directly from the traders on Skier, which means that you can just move all the stuff over and get a new gun for 24k. You don't have to buy a brand new weapon for 200,000 rubles and then move your meta stuff over, which ends up getting quite expensive for certain guns. But for the MCX, you can just buy a new one for 24k and move the stuff over, which makes it really nice and easy to fix. There's nothing really wrong with the drum mag. As you can see here, it's totally fine. The ergonomics is fine here. It's only 5 kilograms, even with the drum mag. This is not really a big deal. If you do want a snappier ADS speed, you can swap this over to the 40 rounders instead. For example, if you did want to do that, that gives you then nearly 60 ergonomics for the same recoil, which is really cool. This obviously does restrict the ability to use certain rigs. You have to use something with a 3x1 slot. And there are some really good new ones over on Prapor if you just want to buy a blank carrier and then just stick some plates in it. But to be honest with you, if you have access to the 60 rounders, they are totally fine on the MCX with the new updates because we've got more ergonomics than we used to, and we've also got better recoil. Just want to do a quick comparison here. If I just remove the magazine to make it easier, we've got 64 ergo and 54 vertical recoil. If I swap over to what the old meta build used to be and remove the magazine on this one, that's 52 ergonomics and 61 vertical recoil. So you can see that the MCX has actually had a pretty significant upgrade with these new attachments that have come in 1.0. So before we get into some gameplay, we obviously need to talk about the ammo as well. CBJ is going to be your main staple. I'm not going to pretend that it's anything else, because this is the run-of-the-mill kind of semi-end game ammo that you're going to see most of the time. But let's just do a quick run through of all the ammos just so that you understand your full choice. Whisper right at the bottom is only really good for leg meta, especially at this point in the wipe. With 90 damage, it's actually not that bad. You got to remember that it's a 7-shot kill to the leg, so you're going to have to hit them quite a few times. The MCX is relatively fast. It's the same as the M4 on fire rate with 800, which makes it okay, but it's not really a gun that I would choose to use for leg meta if I could help it. Yes, you can get 50 rounders, which makes it alright. I think I'd probably rather use the P90 or something that is down in the 6 or 5 hits to kill camp, with the 45 Vector being the best of that particular category. We've then got VMAX, which is probably the worst round, with not as much damage as Whisper, but not enough pen to matter. You've then got BCP FMJ, which is 60 damage and 30 pen. This is pretty much the MCX's version of M855. You only use it if you can't buy anything else and comes on Skier 3. So then we're going to move up to M62 Tracer. Now this is the MCX's version of M856A1 from a balancing perspective. And you could think of it sort of as a more damaging M856A1, although M856A1 does actually do quite a surprising amount of damage at 52. So the 54 from the MCX doesn't really quite make up for the fact that you lose 2 pen in an area that's actually really quite sensitive. Going from 36 pen to 38 pen dramatically increases your chance of going through a class 4 helmet in one shot. I think it takes it from memory from about 45% up to about 65%. So it's really, having that extra pen is quite handy on M856A1. And to make matters worse, you can't actually buy M62 Tracer either for 300 blackout. You have to make it in the workbench level 3, and you also have to do wet job part 1. So I don't think you should go out of your way to use this, and instead focus on getting to Peacekeeper level 4, where you're going to then buy CBJ, which is 58 damage and 43 pen. It's even higher damage than M62 Tracer. This bullet is really quite good. This is the MCX's equivalent of M855A1, but as you can see, the damage is super high. M855A1 actually has less damage than M856A1, and the armor damage here as well allows it to eat through class 5 plates pretty easily. And I've even done some serious damage through class 6 plates as well. It's one of the faster rounds of the caliber, which is kind of handy because the MCX does suffer a little bit from lower projectile speeds. Just moving back to my gun here for a second, I've got CBJ in this, and you can see even with the longest barrel and the suppressor, because there are like negative debuffs on the barrel stats specifically, it actually only fires at 682, despite the fact that CBJ is rated within the game at 725. There are lots of sources of CBJ, surprisingly, in the game. The main one is Peacekeeper level 4. I've already bought it out this reset, but they're just under $8, somewhere around $7 to $8 for each one. There's also 2 versions that you can get, one on ref, and these come in the box format, which is why you don't see them here. So one is for 14 GP coins for a box of 50, which is relatively cheap. It's not too bad, given that BSG have put the prices of the ammo on ref back down a bit. Then you've also got this on mechanic. This appears on mechanic once you accept test drive part 6, so it is quite late on in the quests, and this you then barter for one of those MGT units, the military gyrotachometers. Because those things are quite cheap, they're not really used for anything else, that ends up making CBJ about 700 rubles using that, which is a bit cheaper than Peacekeeper level 4. The final one is the semi-unicorn round Blackout AP. This one is 51 damage, which isn't bad for a round that's penetrating at 48. And there is a way to get this. You have to complete the Cleaner, which is a task that you get after doing the guide, where you have to kill 50 raiders, so a lot of people don't do it, but you can technically make this a workbench level 3 once you've completed that. You'll require CBJ and some Eagle gunpowder, and then that will give you 50 Blackout APs for every 90 CBJ. Most people just use CBJ because it's easier, it's good enough, and it gets the job done. But you can work towards Blackout AP if you really want to, and you really do love the MCX. This ends up being a little bit like firing 7.62 BP out of an M4, which is pretty insane if you ask me, so it can be really quite good. I've actually not really found any this wipe, so I've been using CBJ. And the only thing that I would say about CBJ before we move on to the clips is that I have noticed it bouncing off people's helmets quite a bit, but I think this is an across-the-board thing that BSG have changed. I don't think it's specific to 300 Blackout, because I've noticed this across quite a few calibers. I think when BSG changed the way that ricochets work on helmets, the rates went up kind of across the board, as far as I can tell at least, just from my raids. So the MCX has been waiting for these updates for a really long time in my opinion, and now we're going to look at a few clips in raid, and this gun did not disappoint. Starting to get the random aches and pains debuff that comes after 30? Well yeah, you know, like I really hurt my back the other day, right? Probably put some painkillers on. Remember, like I was like my back, I really like destroyed my back the other day. There you go. This quest is gross. Jump some more from the rafters. It'll be alright. Oh, you can hear all the people rustling about. Interesting, so no one's come through here then. What if I go up here? I actually think this might be better. Arena is goated for... That's a scav, so that's actually probably a good thing. Arena is goated for getting better at the game. What are you shouting? Don't shout at me, mate. Oh. Oh. Spooky boys. Ah! What the hell? Oh, that's so sick! That was so sick! That was so sick! I don't even know where to stand still. Chop shot plays? Dude, that was so good. Oh my word, that was so good. I feel so good about that. Bloodbag will be proud. Look at this, the Alton boys as well. Did I neck the guy? No, I hit him in the top of the head. Okay. Okay, this guy was not geared. The other guy was geared. See how dark it actually is. See, it's pretty horrible. What's that weird noise? Blicky in gate 3 to get the armor down. Okay, we can leave him, I don't care. Oh my god. 90 seconds is a long time. Sounds like someone's going to go shoot them. There they go. Once we've done this, I don't really care. We could do the forklifts thing. I need to find out where they are. Wait, they're still going. They're still going. Thank you, Blicky guy, for being a distraction. Should we go see what's up? What is happening here? That's so funny. Paid actors. What are these guys doing? Okay, so he's not got really anything. Yeah, look, it's the gazelles. That's so funny. Oh. He's got Big Zab on. What were these guys doing? Like, what were these guys actually doing? What are they doing here? Like, this is so weird. Do you need grenades? Not really, but do I need any of this stuff? Not really. We take it because we can, not because we need it. If anyone asks what peak Tarkov is, show them this clip of a man spending 5 minutes looting 2 armors from 2 other players who are trying to do one convoluted quest. It has it all. That's definitely true. Okay, I'm in gate 3. Must have that forklift already. Let's just have a little listen. So there's someone underneath in the water. Now where'd this guy go? Not Timothy. Yes, nighttime factory is no place for Timmy. Indeed. Were they just below me? Were they in here? Okay, it's Tagilla. Alright. And get all the scavs. Okie dokie. Excuse me? Not PP. There we go. Right, and now we've got to go out through the main exit. Which is the one through office, as I understand it. Anyone take this? XMC kills are great. 700 meter. Yeah, it's insane. Bit of rubles. Okay, well, people are taking these. Well, we'll just go out then. I think this is the one he means. Good old skier. So next up, if you haven't seen it already, go and check out my huge epic story video about me completing Shooter Born in Heaven. It's a little bit of a different style for my channel, which is always a bit scary to put out. So if you haven't gone to check it out already, then please do so. Otherwise, as always, a big shout out to all my patrons. And as usual, have fun in your raids.